There's a hair right on my face. The year is 1947. Konflikt has broken down all forms of reason, destroyed any chance for hope, and killed any possibility for our civilization. This is not war. This is the end. Wow. 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 That is the intro slogan of Warlord Games tabletop miniature game, Konflikt 1947, or Konflikt 47, K47. Why is it called K47 or Konflikt, K for Konflikt? I don't really know, and neither do you, but I digress. Let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Gorz, the owner and operator of Hobby Trench, a local Cincinnati hobby location, business, store. Today we'll be announcing a new exciting series that I would like to be hosting. It is going to be the Konflikt campaign. If you are not aware of what K or Konflikt 1947 is, it is the tabletop miniature game that's an expansion to the World War II tabletop miniature game of Warlord Games called Bolt Action. I have brought together 17 patrons, customers, who have great standing and relationship with the community of Hobby Trench here in Cincinnati, to then be a part of this narrative campaign, each playing as a sub-faction of the 5 main nationalities: the United States, the Soviet bloc, the Axis powers, the Commonwealth of Britain, and the Empire of Japan. After choosing a nationality of the tabletop miniature wargame, we will then have them play on a weekly basis where I will record things as the news reporter, viewing, watching, and documenting the war front of the affairs, politics, and scheming. Oh yes, that's what you're all here for. The little schemes that all of them will have as they both fight each other, work together, make alliances, or betray them for your entertainment. And, well, mostly mine. I do it because I like it. You know, it's... In this chapter of this episode, we are going to be addressing all the 5 nationalities and players and introducing them as they are in the campaign. So if the editor would like to show a map of the world and highlight their regions, every player was given 5 regions to start with, as there are several neutral territories that they wish to try to expand into before they start confronting the other players. We will begin with the Empire of Japan. The Empire of Japan has a lot of weapons in the context of quick-moving units, small, weak armor. They have a lack of resources, however, the most zealous and fanatical of infantry, as well as some wonderful troops that could just phase through walls, show up behind you, and, you know, just decide, oh, we're just gonna flank you now, and you're just gonna have to accept it. Fantastic. It's exactly what I want in a game, where there's borders and front lines, and the Japanese get to just ignore. They just get to ignore that. Hey, you want 60 bamboo spears coming in from your sides? I would rather be terminated from the draft of life than play a Japanese army, play against a Japanese army in K47 ever again. The fact that they could just swarm you with these fanatical madmen and just Zerg rush you and call it a World War II army is insane. It is the most... I am never playing you again. I am never playing you again, Jeff. On the Japanese side, we have the Kokutai clan. I said it so well the first time. I said it so well. The the Kukutai clan. They own several islands off the coastline and have an aggressive expansion into the southern island regions. In this introduction of the various players and their roles in the starting of the first turn, I will give over the brief descriptions on the battle reports of exactly what they have done in the endeavors of expanding their territories from the 5 original regions that they begin with. So, without further ado, we're starting with the Empire of Japan. The Kukutai clan, controlling Japan and several regions of the islands on the coastlines of the Asian front in the Pacific. These forces were sent to the surrounding islands of the Indonesian area, expanding rapidly, one of the largest expansions in a first turn move that any of the players, or as we will refer to them, supreme generals, chose to do. The next ones that we're going over is the second Empire of Japan player, the Emperor's Conquerors. The Emperor's Conquerors started in mainland China with some other territories around the surrounding area. These forces were then used to simply expand and attack a neighboring region and try to unite more of China. Besides that, there wasn't too much efforts to expand and a few things constructed in that turn. Next on our ticket list is the Soviet bloc. There are 3 primary players that play in this faction, this nationality. We have the Research Arctic Command, or Arctic Research Command, ARC for short. ARC for Arctic Research Command. Yes. They control the Stan area, and although called Arctic, seem to be expanding into more of a desert, not Arctic area. On the contrary, there is the Moraz Division, named after the Moraz Ghul, which is a pretty cool name by itself. However, if you see on the unit itself in the K47 game, it is in brackets called the Siberian Terror Squad. Super cool, but also Siberian Terror Squad. Can you tell me you would honestly want to fight something called the Siberian Terror Squad? Holy macaroni, that is something that I would never want to see on the battlefield at all. And that's not even the worst of the K47 monsters and units out there. They like replace their blood with antifreeze or immune to flamethrowers, even though that kind of like burns with antifreeze. I don't know. They're just immune to frost, immune to fire, and they will hunt you at night and slit your throat. The Moraz Division, they themselves control a lot of the Arctic Circle area of the northern Siberian and northern regions of Russia, attempting to invade into Finland and doing the classic Soviet tradition of a lack of communication, attacking and infighting other Soviet players. For how this is going to play out, who knows, but hopefully they can sort out their differences and actually work together as the Union was intended for, at least from my perspective. I hope they work together. The next one is the Red Army. The Red Army themselves seem to be in the Eastern Europe area, just outside of the main Russian region, controlling Armenia and the Caucasus and the Balkans. To that extent, they have expanded rapidly, both into Poland, Greece, and a lot of the surrounding areas, unifying the subcontinent of Eastern Europe. The next on our ticket list is the Axis powers. The Axis powers themselves make up 4 primary players, starting with the New Prussia. New Prussia is in a shiny gold. They control most of the homeland Germany and Western Europe. They have expanded and did the first largest initiative and assault into Great Britain. The largest one in a first turn move. Pretty ballsy, pretty big, pretty wacky. And they also border most of the Russian players we referred to prior, trying a lot of diplomacy, but who's to say where this is all going? The second of them is the Eisenwerwolf. The Eisenwerwolf are the gray units in the Spain, Morocco, and other western, I'm getting my east and west mixed up, western side of Africa. They seem to be just building infrastructure, fortifying locations, doesn't seem like they're focused on too much expansion. The third of them are the Last Templars, stuck right in the Middle East. Good luck, buddy. Everyone's kind of surrounding you, and it doesn't seem like you picked exactly the most lucrative regions of that said area. So, Godspeed. Next is Death March. In South America, in the black color scheme, they seem to control Argentina and Bolivia, as well as expanding into Paraguay and the Amazons. They are fortifying and preparing a great defense against all of the United States players. Which, speaking of, we are going to be moving into the United States. The United States is made up of 4 players as well. These 4 players are the Ohio's Honor. As an operation working in Cincinnati, I feel compelled that I must hope for their success. Though, as Ohio is not exactly the most exciting place in the world to be, maybe they could just get a few more skylines conventionally everywhere. Who's to say? Next on that is Liberty Sky, controlling just some regions in northern South America and a few other ones scattered around like California. They are attempting to diplomatically convince their neighbors to join them, the neutral territories, and are probably the first on the border of this war with Death March. The third of this group is Max Maulers. Max Maulers is fortifying the central areas of North America, and though seem to express a little suspicion of the other American players. Not that he's not supportive of their attempts for a united front, the United Coalition. Though there's just a little doubt, as in he's in the center of the area, doesn't seem like he has a lot of directions to go, so who's to say that people aren't going to exactly divide up his regions for him? If you get the idea. The next would be the Bloodied Stripes. The Bloodied Stripes themselves control pretty much the most far-reaching territories amongst the North and South American areas, even of one piece of South Antarctica. Now, where they're going, not too sure. Where it's heading, they did initiate and spearhead the United Coalition, bringing all of the United States players into one alliance together. Hopefully that becomes a good turn of events for them. The last on our list of nationalities is the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is governed by an additional 4 more players. Don't worry, we're almost done in this part. This being the Raja Sentry, controlling South Africa, Egypt, and some parts of New Zealand and Australia. They seem to be building up fortifications and expanding very passively. Doesn't seem like they're going in many directions. Who knows? Speaking of Australia, we also have the Royal Tin Men. The Royal Tin Men seem to control most of Australia, a little bit of Iceland over here, and have decided to act in a more passive manner, much like the Raja Sentry, just fortifying and preparing for the end times to come. The most aggressive of the British Commonwealth is Project Albion Colossus, or Project Colossus for short, in the Marble Blue. The Marble Blue faction here have control of most of the Middle East, some parts of Africa, and seem to be aggressively making the second largest initiative and attack in the first turn straight into the Levant to unify and control all of the Middle East. Good luck to them, just as much as the Last Templars. You are fighting in a kill box of the world. Godspeed to you. And lastly, but not finally, we have the Court of Avalon. The Court of Avalon controls all of the Indian subcontinent. It is noticeably the only player to have started with 5 regions that make up an entire subcontinent, lucky for them, as well as the guardian in responsibility of the Great Britain region itself, the homeland of the Commonwealth. However, with the massive attack happening from New Prussia, it doesn't really seem like this is going to last very long at all. The next part will be the amendments. Now, if you're not familiar with the bolt action K47 tabletop war games mechanics, dice rolling, morale levels, shooting, hitting, things like that, then you're welcome to skip this part. Though if you're curious about the house rule edits and alterations we've done, and I would recommend you to use in your own games, this would be the list we're going over now. The first amendment that we will be going over is mass firepower. Now, this is a rule I would recommend anyone to use. Mass firepower is every 10 hits, a volley of shots at a target adds an additional 1 pin onto said target. Essentially, in this context, you shoot 1, 5, 9 shots into someone, it does 1 pin. Okay, makes sense. Bolt action, standard. We all know how that works. However, what if you're shooting 12, 20, 30, 40? I mean, there's robots in this game that can shoot 60 plus shots in one volley. And you're telling me that rain, that hail of gunfire is going to do just 1 pin? I mean, even if it's shooting at zombies and they're incapable of being afraid, I mean, the gunfire alone is going to physically, literally pin them down, hold them back. I mean, there's a lot of impacts happening there, right? So, for every 10 hits, you take 1 pin. So, 11 hits, 2 pins. 20 hits, 3 pins. You get the idea. One more than the double-digit number it is. I can't imagine we'll ever get higher than 20, but who's to say? The next of our amendments here is fearless, not unstoppable. As we just mentioned with the whole firing a 50 cal into a zombie that's slowly marching forward, with the shot, if successfully hit, let's argue in the clarity of hitting successfully, not just missing the target, would that not at least punch you back, hit you back, slow you down in some way, some capacity? I think it would. I think it would. In this context, all units with the fearless is treated as morale level 12. With the pins applied, can fail an order test to activate. This does not mean, nor will it be able to, rout. And if it takes a foobar on double sixes, it will not shoot its friend or run off the table. It will simply go down like everything else. If you're being shot enough, if you're a robot taking too much sensor combat, if you're a modified dog or a zombie being shot by 1,000,000 shots, you should be slowed down. This is that reflection. It's still really hard to stop you, and if you are to get a pin, you will roll a die for every pin you will receive, and on a 5-up, you ignore it entirely. A 5 or 6 on a roll of a d6. That's what the 5-up is. The next we have here, it is fucking anti-tank. You can say an anti-tank rifle is not anti-tank or anti-tank gun. Actually, it's called an anti-tank rifle so that you can clarify that it's not an anti-tank gun. Okay, buddy, I get it that the rules are designed like that so that there's some clarity of the differences, but look, man, if I'm bringing an anti-tank rifle and it has penetration 2 and every weapon I'm shooting at is armored 8, 9, 10, 12 and is just unpenetrable by this anti-tank rifle, can I at least hit? Can I at least get that 1 pin? It's not going to do anything else. Like, at most, it's going to put a pin on you. Just let it do it, all right? An anti-tank rifle is anti-tank gun. It has anti-tank in the goddamn name. All right? So it's going to hit on a 3-up, on a fire order, like an anti-tank gun, or, I don't know, man. The next amendment that we will be doing is tactical reposition. So you know the order advance where you can move up and shoot? Okay, I get that. And then the run order where you do a double move. Okay? And then there's ambush to prepare yourself to do a shot. But what if you do an advance, which is a 6-inch move up, or in that context of a single move, not a double move like a run order is? Are you just to do nothing? It just seems like such a waste. and it's so difficult to set up an ambush to actually make it usable, especially if you have to run onto the table, which most games are designed like that. So we have began this tradition where you will roll a morale test, well, technically an order test. If you do an advance order and then roll an order test with a -2 to the morale level, so veteran rolling an 8 or less, a regular rolling a, if I can count here, a 7 or less. If you succeed, you can change your advance order into an ambush order. This only can be allowed if you don't do a shoot action in the advance order. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Can be a little powerful, but if everyone can do it, then it's fair for everyone. The last of the amendments that are relevant to all players is tanks have crew. Now, if you notice in the rules and descriptions, it does specify that tanks are knocked out when they are destroyed by full damage chart and in other conditions. However, in some descriptions, like catching on fire, it says the crew abandons the vehicle. We, over several games, have discovered a very fun element of having a crew dismount from a vehicle and try to hold their last stand, or run for the objective, or just escape the table, just to deny the attackers that one victory point from popping that tank. So, to that context, if the conditions met to describe the crew abandons the vehicle, a crew will dismount of the vehicle at a 6-inch range, armed with only pistols and the veterancy of the vehicle. So, veteran tank, veteran crew, regular tank, regular crew. Make sense? This crew will be initially marked down, carrying the pins of the vehicle with them. Tank had 3 pins, the crew has 3 pins, and will be down after they dismount. Sounds pretty reasonable to me, and with pistols, they're kind of useless. For an upgrade of 5 points on each member of the crew, so with a 2-man crew, 10 points. For a 4-man crew, 20 points. Make sense? These pistols may be upgraded to SMGs, 12-inch range, 2-shot weapons. All models must be upgraded with this trait for it to be allowed. You can't have 2 of them with pistols, 2 of them without, and all be part of the same 4-man tank-man crew. To that said, what decides if a crew is 2, 3, or 4 people from a tank? Any vehicle that is damage value 6 to damage value 8 has a 2-man crew. Any vehicles have a damage value 9 to a damage value 10 have a 3-man crew. Any vehicles with damage value 11 or higher has a 4-man crew. So those big, super heavy, the Mouse tank, the big mechanized Mammoth from the Soviets, they're the ones that we're talking about having the 4-man crew. Now, there are a few other amendments that are focused around specific nationalities, but nothing to be concerned about. None of those seem to have too much detail that are relevant to the greater scheme of the game. However, when you start seeing a few battle reports on these games, you will recognize a few of these being used, and this video can be the reference onto what is exactly happening per described in the amendments list prior. One last part about how this series will operate on a weekly basis. We will be starting the series in a 4-era system, starting with early war. Now, we will be playing with a few mechanic limits compared to it just being purely historical limits, just for the functionality of every player having means to interact in a reasonable way. The game is not designed to be fair, it's designed to be dynamic, but every player needs to have some kind of chance to compete with each other in their current positions. The last aspect of this game will be the timeline. The timeline will be 4 separate sections that we are going to be addressing as seasons. Oh yes, this is going to be gaming as a service for those that are participating, because I'm a business and I owe a lot of money to a lot of people, so I'm sure as hell going to try to make this work, okay? What I will be doing is that every 3 months is going to be a season. Every 3 months will be a new expansion with new content, from different trade expansions to Navy to various conflicts and battles or general amendments that will add to the game. To that extent, we will be starting with Early War. Early War will have things similar to what you might recognize in Early War historically, but will have some more game-like mechanic limitations or additions to make it so every nationality, player-wise, has more of an opportunity to participate. Yes, the game is designed to be dynamic. Yes, the game is supposed to be asymmetric, but at the same time, we want to give everyone the ability to even be able to participate. And if, well, historically, one area is just lacking of all resources, Early War will begin with the following conditions. No shape charges or flamethrowers. No weapons with the heavy term. Heavy as in heavy machine gun, heavy howitzer, heavy, I'm running a blank, mortar, heavy mortar. You get the idea. No SMGs or assault rifles. Now, there's a little bit of an exception to that technically. If someone has a K47 unit in a battle frame suit and they have an SMG, that is a-okay. But we are playing in the idea that, like, having compact, efficient machine guns haven't really been made into a more mobile, easy-to-operate tool and mass-produced. It's more of like, hey, there's a guy in a giant lead hunk of suit of armor, and, you know, we strapped a gun to his arm, and he could shoot it while mobily moving around. So those SMGs, a-okay. But like the commando kind you would see in the classic mid-war or later of World War II, those will be coming, well, you guessed it, mid-war. The next part is no vehicles or walkers above damage value 8. This is no tanks higher than, like, light tanks. You know, you got armored cars, light tanks, you got trucks and transports. We want to really focus on Early War being about bolt-action rifles, machine guns, and mass manpower to really just, like, expand fast, have a lot of territory, and a lot of almost that, like, the end of World War I kind of weaponry and equipment. That's kind of the approach we want to take with this. The mid-war, now we're moving to mid-war. Yes, mid-war, if you didn't know what subject I'm talking about. Mid-war, no vehicles or walkers above damage value 9. Flamethrowers, shape charges, all of that, bring them in. Get those grenade launchers and missile pods and all of the crazy stuff. Most of mid-war will be what you recognize as a World War II iconic Hollywood movie. But we'll have no weapons with super heavy. See, heavies are welcome now, heavy machine guns, heavy howitzers, but no super heavy, anti-tank guns. We're not trying to bring out the mouse yet. You know, that comes later. A lot of the weapons and super big vehicles of, like, the end of the war, that's coming into a section called Late War. Late War is where pretty much everything World War II is accessible and part of the game. However, the conflict units are now not just half your army is K47 conflict units, but also you can bring multiple Rift dice. This is where Rift dice start becoming the mainstream means of warfare. Yes, you can bring your big King Tigers and your mouse tanks and all those jumbo Shermans and whatnot, but now comes the, not just battle suits, but the werewolves and the werebears and the flying bats and the teleporting ghost terror squads of Japan. This is when all those things are starting to take their first steps into the war. That's coming in about 9 months from now, 6 months from now, early war, mid-war, late war. Then the last part is conflict war, or we can call it end war. End war is when, well, we'll see when we get there. Don't you worry. There's plenty planned for the end war. Ladies and gentlemen, audience, of this court, sitting here building and painting models and enjoying your time listening to a eccentric little man tell stories about a war that is of his dreams, fiction-wise, dream-wise, game-wise. You know, we can talk like gamers here, I think, right? I would like to just simply say thank you for taking this time to listen to me ramble and address the various tutorials of this new game and campaign, seeing the various areas of the map and the movements of the forces. I would also like to really point out that this weekly series will be one that we are going to put a great deal of focus and being the primary project for this year at Hobby Trench. And if you want to take the time to follow us on this journey, just know, making some note of it, telling us in the comments that you like this content or maybe would like to see more of it. We're trying something new, and I would like everyone to be a part of this. So do your part, and I'll do mine, and we can make a better world for the miniature industry for us all to be a part of. Thank you. I'm Gorz, your host, and have a good night.